Growing up as a child, the artist was surrounded by botany and horticulture. By the age of 8, her grandmother had taught her how to develop successful gardens and entrusted her with a number of family gardens to look after herself. She quickly discovered her fingers to be green, and her gardens from then on have always been in full bloom. The Hawaiian hibiscus, depicted in the work Gold of Hawaii, shows Anazarov's style as it relates to the subject matter of flowers. In terms of the vibrancy of color and texture, the flower is elevated from a simple object to actually a commentary on life itself. In Gold of Hawaii, the flower depicted is actually the hibiscus state flower of Hawaii. And the work as a whole serves as a tribute to the artist Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe was commissioned by the Dole Pineapple Corporation in the late 1930s to paint the landscapes and vegetation of Hawaii. The artist sees Hawaii as a very special place because of its ability as a subtropic region to allow all these different species of flowers to bloom. During her time spent in Hawaii, Anazarov was staying in hotel rooms, and at that time she had an issue to deal with, which was how to paint without upsetting the management of the hotel because of the smell from the oil paint. So she actually discovered the medium of watercolor by accident. An absolute star, we see the flower King Protea, which is actually the national flower of South Africa. It also lends its name to South Africa's cricket team. Because Protea grow in the different shrubland and woodland of South Africa's mountainous region, there's different terrain that they grow on, which causes the species to grow oftentimes in isolation of one another. So one flower may be miles away from where the other proteas are growing. Because of this isolation, the species have grown and developed differently from one another, creating these offshoots and variations to the species. This is actually what gave them the name Protea. They're named after the Greek god Proteus, who is known for changing form. Together, the works Morning Light and Midnight reference the Mediterranean flax. These two compositions together are actually a tribute Anazarov makes to the artist Claude Monet. Monet was known for depicting haystacks as subject matter during different intervals of the day, which served as a study of the perception of light. Much like Anazarov is commenting on Claude Monet, she's also commenting on the history of flax. Because it was first discovered being domesticated in the Fertile Crescent and then extensively being used by the ancient civilization of Egypt, flax has been known for its early use in producing fibers. Those fibers would then be spun to make textile cloth. In this composition, Anazarov references that history by making a background that truly captures the essence of the coloring method of textiles known as tie-dye. So the way that these deep blues and the soft and many shades of purples and even reds harmoniously merge together, it looks just like when the textile cloth is dyed in the tie-dye method, and there's that harmony and perfect subtle blending of color that happens, and you see that in the background composition here. So she's referencing textile design, which is not only the history of flax and its use as a fiber for textile, but also her own personal history as a former textile designer. In the work Midnight, the Mediterranean flax is shown set against a deep, very dark night sky which really brings out the subject matter in a different way that morning light will do. In morning light, the Mediterranean flax is set against a softer orange and yellow sky, which dramatically changes the way the subject matter is perceived in comparison to how it's set against the dark night sky and midnight. Anna Zarev's work, Endless Spring, is extremely large-scale and monumental in its ability to pull the viewer into this scene, which truly is reference to the importance of flowers in Asian cultures because of the religious significance of flowers. In Buddhism, the shrines are always adorned with flowers, and in ancestral worship, the shrine houses are always filled with fruit and flowers that are honoring the dead. The three figures depicted in the composition are actually transporting freshly cut blooms to the marketplace. In the composition, the blooms are depicted in a method where they're very tight patches of color, and they're depicted in this direct application of pigment onto the canvas so that they come out in a sculptural sense. You really feel that an attraction to the blooms in their three-dimensionality. They come right out, jettison right out of the canvas, and take these forms of what the blooms would look like from a distance. The work Colors of April is an extension to the narrative seen before in Endless Spring. So this is the time when the flower merchants are receiving the blooms off of the ships and begin to categorize them based off color and species. There's a real energy to this composition in terms of the flower merchants immersed and drenched physically, their hands inside of these baskets of beautiful blooms that are captured in that same way of texture and color that comes right off the canvas through her artistic process of direct application of oil onto the canvas. So it's very much a scene of an embrace of life. Throughout her life, Anna Zarev has visited the grave of Vincent van Gogh many times. Upon arrival, she's always noticed that there's sunflowers just everywhere, adorning the grave, in admiration and remembrance of the artist. The work, Remembering You, is Anna Zarev's way of remembering Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh produced many sunflower compositions, and in doing so, many scholars have noted that his representation of sunflowers can actually serve as self-portraits, showing his own psychological emotions. Anna Zarev's background in textile design and in working in fabrics and knowing so much about color theory gives her the ability to know perfectly how one color will play off its adjoining colors and truly bring the energy of the composition to show the sunflowers just the way she experiences them. Anna Zarev uses the sunflower to show the energy that she feels and a connection between all life in its beauty, in its energy, and in its color.
To me, flowers are just like humans. They are God's creation. They are alive. They are breathing. They are God's little beautiful children. And I love them with all my heart.